Hey there, welcome back to the Deep Dive. So today we're going to be tackling something that I think resonates with a lot of us. You know, it's that whole finding your why thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you make life feel truly meaningful? Not just at work, but, everywhere, really.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into this conversation with Simon Sinek.
Oh, good one.
He's the author of Start With Why, really brought that idea to the forefront.
Yeah. And, it's funny how his journey to all this why stuff,
Right.
it actually started with him kind of struggling. He was living what a lot of people would consider a successful life, but he just felt like deeply unfulfilled.
It's that classic thing, right? You check
Yeah.
all the boxes, everything looks good on paper, but there's this piece missing.
Totally.
So how did Sinek get out of that rut?
Well, he had this realization, right? He's like, okay, I know what I do. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm doing my thing. I know
Right.
how I do it. I've got my own approach. But he couldn't quite put his finger on the WHY.
And he argues that this why, it's crucial, man. It's not about tearing stuff down. It's about building towards something positive, something you actually believe in.
So it's like figuring out the deeper reason behind everything we do. Like, setting a goal is one thing,
Right.
but understanding the why behind that goal, that's where the real magic is.
Exactly. And he actually gives this example of, athletes who achieve incredible success,
Okay.
but then they really struggle with depression.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's because their whole why was all about this one finite goal,
Mm.
like winning this one competition. And once they hit that peak, then there's this void.
That is so, I've never thought about it that way, but it makes total sense.
It does.
It's like you're almost setting yourself up for disappointment because it's temporary.
Totally.
You reach that mountaintop, and then what?
Exactly. And that's where he brings in this idea of self-awareness
Okay.
and honest feedback. Like, he tells this funny story about how his partner called him out for being a bad listener,
Oh, I can relate.
which, initially he kind of brushed it off like, come on, I'm a good listener.
Right.
But then he takes a listening class and he realizes, oh, she was right.
Wow.
We all have these blind spots, right?
We
No matter how self-aware we think we are.
It takes courage to really open yourself up to that feedback.
It really does, yeah.
And it's not even just about personal growth. It's about the cultures we create.
Absolutely.
And he talks about the Army Rangers
Yeah.
and how they dealt with this thing called, get this, Spotlight Rangers.
I love this story.
Spotlight Rangers? What is that?
Like some elite squad.
Well, not quite. No. It's these individuals who are amazing, but only when someone's watching.
Oh.
Right.
Wow.
But then when no one's looking, it's like their true colors come out.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
But how do you even handle that? Like, how do the Rangers address that?
So they made a big change.
Okay.
They made peer reviews a core part of their promotion process.
Interesting.
So it's not enough to just have the skills and for your leader to you
got to be a good teammate, even when no one's watching.
it's like you're actually creating a system to reinforce the values, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just about catching the bad apples. It's about actually celebrating the good stuff.
Yeah.
Even when it happens behind the scenes.
Right.
But okay, back to some of the other points that Sinek makes.
Okay.
He also talks about this thing, ethical fading,
Right.
where unethical behavior just kind of,
It sneaks up on you.
it sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how he links that to those seemingly harmless white lies
Yeah.
that we tell, often in the workplace, right?
Mhm.
He even challenges listeners to go 48 hours
Oh, I know.
without telling a single lie,
Yeah, yeah.
even a little one.
Good luck.
Oh, man.
Right.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I would pass that challenge.
Look, it's harder than you it's harder than you think.
It's really hard, but
Yeah.
I guess that's the point, right? You start to realize how easy it is for these small compromises to pile up
Oh, yeah.
and then create a culture where bigger ethical breaches
Become the norm.
become acceptable.
Totally.
It's slippery slope, isn't it?
It is. It's a slippery slope for sure.
You tell one white lie,
Yep.
then another, and
Not
suddenly
justifying things you never thought you would.
exactly.
Right.
And Sinek points out that a lot of this starts at the top.
Mm.
He gives this example of a company justifying this huge price hike
Right.
on a life-saving drug, and they're like, well, it's just business.
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa, okay.
Come on.
That's they're trying to rationalize unethical behavior
Totally.
just to hit their numbers.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's wild. And you can see how that kind of thinking
Oh, yeah.
creates such a toxic work environment.
100%. 100%.
And it's not even just about the workplace, is it?
No.
Sinek argues that, like, if we're constantly compromising our values at work, it can bleed into our personal lives too,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
It's like, it's harder to show up authentically in our relationships
Right.
when we're not even living in alignment with our values.
100%. Yeah, if you're...
It's all
It
connected.
is, yeah.
Our work lives, our personal lives, our values, like,
It all influences each other.
it all influences each other.
For sure.
But I think sometimes, like, it feels like companies are trying to address these deeper issues with these, like, kind of superficial solutions.
Oh, yeah.
And Sinek talks about this, right? Like, the obsession
I
with
know you're going to say.
office perks and the ping pong tables and all that.
Ping pong table. Yeah, he's like, come on.
He's like, come on, guys.
It's not going to fix it.
It's not going to fix the deeper issues.
Yeah, a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
It's like you're addressing the symptoms
Yeah.
instead of the actual, like, root cause of the disease.
100%.
And I think for a lot of people, that root cause is, like, this lack of purpose, a lack of feeling valued, and, like,
Connected to something bigger.
connected to something bigger.
Yeah.
And that makes me think about, like, the Great Resignation, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about people wanting more flexibility or even just remote work. It's about wanting their work to actually have meaning.
Totally. And that's what's so great about Sinek's work. He's like, look, the companies that are going to thrive, they're the ones that figure out how to create this strong sense of purpose and belonging for their employees.
It's not just about the bottom line anymore. It's about creating this culture where people feel valued and, like, connected to a mission.
Connected to a mission, 100%.
It really is. It's like that saying, alone in a crowded room, but it's like the internet version.
Right.
Which makes me think about, like, all this remote work stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's got its perks, obviously.
Yeah.
But you could also see how that could actually make that isolation even worse.
Totally. He actually calls it a double-edged sword. The flexibility is great,
Right.
but it can make it tougher, especially for, like, younger generations.
Right.
To form those connections, those real, genuine connections.
That you need to actually combat loneliness.
Exactly, 100%.
So is Sinek saying, like, the office is dead?
No, not at all. I think he thinks it's going to change, though.
Oh, okay.
Offices will be less about, cubicles and all that.
Right.
And more about, like, fostering a sense of community.
Interesting.
Because you get those face-to-face interactions that you just can't replicate online.
It's like they need to offer something you can't get from working at home in your PJs.
Exactly. It's like the companies that understand this, that create those cultures,
Yeah.
those are the ones that are going to attract and keep the best people.
Which makes sense because at the end of the day, people want to be a part of something, right? Something meaningful.
100%.
And I thought it was so interesting because throughout this whole conversation, right, it's Sinek being interviewed, but there's this moment where the host, Stephen Bartlett, flips the script.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, all right, Simon, it's your turn.
I love this part.
Let's figure out the why behind your podcast, The Diary of a CEO.
So meta.
It's so meta. It's like, whoa, hold on.
Right.
Even someone who's built a career on finding your why.
Could use a dose of their own medicine.
Exactly. So what happens? What's his big why for this podcast?
Well, at first, he's giving all these reasons like, oh, podcasting's popular,
Right.
I like to be open and honest. I like interviewing people.
But those are all just reasons.
Exactly. Those are just reasons. They're not the why.
It's not that deeper level.
And Bartlett calls him out.
No way. He says it to his face.
Oh, yeah. He's like, look, Simon, would you rather have the most popular podcast out there?
Okay.
Or would you rather just speak your truth?
Wow.
Even if it's not always pretty, and help other people do the same thing.
He's going there. He's going there.
And that's when Sinek has this, like, aha moment. And he's like, you know what? My why is to create a space where honesty, vulnerability, all of it, it's not only okay, it's celebrated.
He wants people to feel safe being real.
Exactly.
I love that.
It's like he's trying to build the community that he wished he'd had.
It's so powerful when you think about it like that.
Totally. It changed everything about how he approached the podcast.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't just like a theoretical exercise. He actually applied it.
He applied it, and not just to the podcast, like across the board.
That's what makes it real. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's like this isn't just theory with him. It's his life.
He lives it.
And I think it just goes to show you anyone, even someone who practically invented this whole finding your why thing, can benefit from taking a step back.
Absolutely.
And examining their own motivations.
100%. Yeah, it's an ongoing process for all of us, right?
It's like that saying, the unexamined life is not worth living,
Right.
and that self-discovery, it never really
Yeah,
ends. And sometimes, it takes someone else, like shining a light
totally.
on those blind spots that we all have.
100%.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, like, what's standing out to you? Could it be that, finding your why and then actually living it is the key to a more fulfilling life?
That's the question, isn't it? And how can you take these insights, apply them to your own life, to your work, to your relationships, to really create that more purposeful and ethical world around you?
Food for thought.
Food for thought.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep living a life that matters.